Hi, and welcome back to my channel. So today I am here to talk about the 22 top books that I read in 2022. So this video is probably going to be a little long, but I'm going to try not to go too in-depth to any of the books, just because I don't want to make this video like way too long. But anyways, I read some great books this year. And the year's not over. So this might not be a complete list of all of the amazing books that I've read, but up until this point, it is, I don't even know what the date is today. It is the 18th. So as of December 18th, these are my top books that I have read this year. So I have a list here and I went through my Goodreads and I can positively say all of these books I've given 5 stars to. And actually, I think it came out just perfect that I had 22 5-star reads in 2022. I've talked about a few of these already because I did do a 5-star reads, or all the books I've given 5 stars to back this summer. So some of these are going to be a repeat, but that's okay. And some of these I actually don't have on hand right now because I either had the audiobook and borrowed it from the library or Scribd, or I have them loaned out to people right now. So these are in no particular order. I would never be able to rate like a top book of the year because I enjoyed all of these for different reasons, but I think they kind of go in backwards order from what I've read them in. So let's get started. The very first one, and probably one of my most recent 5-star reads, was Daisy Darker by Alice Feeney. I love a good isolated thriller, and this one did not disappoint. Like I said, I'm not going to go too much into any of these, but this one was really good. The second one, and this one I had read on my Kindle and decided to pick up a copy. I luckily found one on Pango for a really good deal because I knew I needed to have it on my shelves because I would like other people to read it, and that is 13 by Steve Kavanaugh. And I think the quote on the front here is probably the best way to describe this book. The serial killer isn't on trial, he's on the jury. This one had me hooked. I think I read it really fast, and I'm really happy to have it on my shelves now.
I found this on the web really fast. Check it out.
Oh, when you have multiple devices. Let me shut that one off. Hold on. All right, that shouldn't be bothering us anymore. Gotta love that. Next up, this one I don't have right now because I just loaned it out to a friend, and that is The Last Housewife by Ashley Winstead. That book blew my mind. There are definite trigger warnings in the beginning of that book that should be taken seriously, but wow. You are probably going to see Ashley Winstead on this list a little bit later, but that one was phenomenal. It's all surrounding a cult, and yeah, it was amazing. Number 4 was Hidden Pictures by Jason Rekulak. I also do not have this one. I actually borrowed this one from a friend of my mom. I highly suggest reading the actual physical copy because there are pictures in it. The child in the book draws pictures and they kind of get creepier as the book goes along. And yeah, so I definitely suggest physically reading that one. That one I know has mixed reviews, but I quite enjoyed it. So number 5, once again, another one I do not have the book of, but I did just buy it for my book club gift exchange earlier this month and did say like someone needs to read this, and that is Bad Luck Bridesmaids. I believe it's Alison Rose Greenberg. I loved that book, which is always a shock because it was more of a chick lit book, and that's usually not my thing, but the main character in that book is such a strong female main character that I loved, and she kind of doesn't bend her own self-worth for a man, and I love that. So that rounds that one out. Number 6 I do have, and this one is very atmospheric. You'll probably see this one coming up in another video I have planned, but that is The Life We Bury by Ellen Eskens. I loved this book. Basically the main character is interviewing a man that I believe he's in a nursing home, but he was originally in prison for life, and we're getting the interview between the two of them along with some side things that are going on, and it was so good. And yeah, it would be a perfect one to read. So next up, I read this one on my Kindle. I do really want to get a copy of this for my shelves, and that is Jar of Hearts by Jennifer Hillier. I had never read anything by Jennifer Hillier before this year, and I have picked up several now, and I'm looking forward to picking up even more on her backlist. I know I have one right there. I think that's Little Secrets that I can't wait to pick up. And I'm really hoping over this winter I read Creep and Freak, but I read Jar of Hearts this year and loved it. What a wild, crazy ride. I believe the woman is just getting out of prison for basically kind of being a part of her best friend's murder, and then more murders start happening again, and yeah, phenomenal. Another one I read on my Kindle, and this was thanks to Lindsay at Lindsay's Little Library, and that was Unmissing by Minka Kent, and I had never read anything by her before, but this one, the book starts out and a woman has gone hiking, and basically you see that she gets abducted, and I think second chapter jumps 10 years later, she is escaped and she is going back to try to reclaim her life, and her husband has been remarried. So wild twists and turns in that one, and I loved it. I was so thankful for Lindsay and that recommendation. All right, number 9, another one I don't have with me. I do have a physical copy of this book, but I just loaned it out to the same coworker that has the Last Housewife, so I hope she has a really fabulous winter break read. And this is The Overnight Guest by Heather Gudenkauf. I believe this was the first Heather Gudenkauf that I've read, and I have several more waiting on my shelves. This one was thanks to my friend Nicole, and what an atmospheric book that was. I believe the main character in the book, if I'm remembering right, is researching this murder that had gone on, and it's super atmospheric because the whole book is kind of told in the present day timeline during a snowstorm, and then it flips back to some of the previous timelines when things went down. I'm giving it a terrible description, but it was so good, and so thankful to Nicole for telling me to read that one. Next up, I do have this one, and this is another one because of Lindsay. Shocker. This was Girl 11, and that's by Amy Suter Clark. This one, I highly suggest the audiobook. This has a podcast element in it, and the audiobook just made it like that much better because it sounds like a real podcast. And basically this premise is it's a serial killer who is working his way down the ages of people that he kills. So he started at 21, I believe, and then 20, and so on and so forth, and super gripping, and I loved kind of that multimedia aspect. One I finally do have again, and like I said, Ashley Winstead is going to make a glimpse again, and I earlier this year read In My Dreams I Hold a Knife, obviously by Ashley Winstead. College reunion, going back, one of their friends was murdered in college, and I believe one of them was not tried for her murder, but suspected of her murder, but I think eventually got acquitted, but they know somebody did it. And so you're kind of going back and forth between the two different timelines. So good. Another one that I have loaned out right now, my mom has this one, and she's had it for a while, and I'm hoping she picks it up, but I'm not sure how she's going to feel about it. And that was Razorblade Tears by S.A. Cosby. I had never read anything by him before, and this book is quite violent. Probably one of the more violent books that I have read when it comes to like violence happening. Two dads basically avenging their sons' deaths. Their sons were married, and they never had a great relationship because of their life choices, but when they were both killed, now both of their dads are kind of avenging them, and it was a wild ride for sure. This one should be no surprise because I have talked about it plenty this year, and that is The House in the Cerulean Sea by DJ Clune. This one is, like I have said in the past, all because of the audiobook. It just captured my heart. Oh, the voices that the narrator, and I can't think of the name on the top of my head, I'll put it here. Just so cute. Like, everybody needs a little Chauncey in their life, and I just love this one. And this is not like my normal realm. You can see a lot of these are thrillers, but this one I absolutely loved. And now I haven't picked up anything else by TJ Clune yet, but hopefully that'll be on the radar for 2023. Moving on, number 14. This one was one of my YA favorites for the year, and this also was because of the audiobook, and that is The Hate U Give by Angie Thomas. I know, I probably should have picked this one up a long time ago. I believe it came out in Let me look. 2017. So it took me a while to pick this one up, but I am so glad I did. An amazing story, and getting the audiobook, you truly get like the main character's voice in here, and I loved it. I also picked up Concrete Rose by Angie Thomas, which is like the prequel to this book. I have another one sitting here over on my shelves that I haven't picked up yet, but I really enjoyed that one. Number 15. I think I picked this one up because of my cousin Amanda, and that was The Book of Lost Names by Kristen Harmel. This was a fantastic World War II story. I know there's mixed reviews out on this one as well, but I quite enjoyed it. It may have even made me cry now that I think about it, but I couldn't put it down. It was so good. One of my favorite historical fiction reads of the year. Number 16, another audiobook favorite, and that was Dial A For Aunties by Jessie Q. Santano. Basically, this woman gets set up and she goes on a date and ends up killing her date. And they are on a process of they have like a wedding business basically that they do a whole bunch of weddings, and these aunties are just, I don't know, the antics that they go through, hilarious. And I highly suggest the audiobook because you get their accents and everything, and it was just so darn funny. Another one, I don't have the first book in the series right now because it is loaned out to a friend, but I finished the whole series of The Inheritance Games by Jennifer Lynn Barnes. Loved each and every one of them. Even with the mixed reviews on the third book, I loved that one too. I gave all of those book 5 stars, but I'm kind of lumping them in as one so they nicely fit into my 22 of 22. Really, really enjoyed that series, and actually I'm looking forward to, I believe she's bringing out one called The Hawthorne Boys, so stay tuned for that one. Another one I have loaned out right now is Reminders of Him by Colleen Hoover. Oh, that book, just, I don't know if Colleen Hoover can do much wrong, and I loved that one. Basically a mother looking to reconnect with her daughter after, I do believe she was in prison. Lot of complicated storylines in that one, and it was so good. Another one I don't have because I borrowed from the school library, and this is probably another, I would consider this one middle grade and not YA, but that was Starfish by Lisa Phipps. It is a story told in verse, and it was fantastic. Actually, when I finished reading it, I passed it along to a couple coworkers. I was like, you need to read this. It's so good. And it's about a little girl who grows up plus size and just the things that she has to deal with on a daily basis. And yeah, I loved it. It was so good. Another one that I thought I owned, but I must not have, I must have borrowed it from somewhere, was The One with the Blue Star by Pam Jenoff, another World War II story. And this one was based all in like the sewers of, I think it was Poland, I could be wrong. But just a whole different perspective of World War II that I never imagined. And yeah, these families were hiding in the sewers during the time where they were clearing out different neighborhoods of Jewish people. So very different perspective, but a very, very good story. Another one, like I said, I don't think Colleen Hoover can do any wrong, and that was It Ends With Us. I think this was the first book that I read this year, and it was an instant 5 stars. I loved this book, and you know, with Lily and Atlas, and then a little bit of Ryle, this is Lily and Ryle's story, and then Atlas we see, and then Atlas ends up getting his own book like I've talked about, but loved this one. And definitely read this one before, if you do decide to pick up It Starts With Us. So, and this one kind of snuck in because I just finished this one yesterday. So most of those I was going backwards, but my most current 5-star read is The Family Game by Catherine Steadman. I have read one other Catherine Steadman book, and that was Something in the Water, and I enjoyed it. It wasn't quite a 5-star for me, but this one, I did not want to put this one down. And once again, I picked this one up because of Lindsay at Lindsay's Little Library, because every time she posted a Goodreads update, she was it'd be like, wow, I can't stop reading, da 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 da. So I said, okay, I'm gonna pick this one up, and I am so glad I did. I don't want to give too much away because that's how I feel when I go about into thrillers, but wow, it was fantastic. And I know there's mixed reviews on this one, but I am in the 5-star review for that one. So those are my 22 favorite books of 2022. What are some of the best books that you have read this year? Any more that I should add to my list? I am slowly but surely thinking about what I want to read in 2023. I cannot believe we are already at the end of this year. That's just crazy. But I hope you had a fabulous reading year as well. As always, if you enjoyed this video, feel free to like and subscribe, and I will see you next time.